Hi everyone, salad is not something you usually associate with Chinese food, but the reality is cold salads are actually a huge part of northern Chinese cuisine because the summers are so hot. People usually want to eat something cold. We're going to teach you how to make two types of northern Chinese cold salads today. It's called liang cai, which literally means cold vegetables. There's 4 rules to making them. The first rule is you need 3 different colors. Now that's more of a visuals but also a texture thing. So today we're going to make green cabbage, a red carrot, and carbs. Now the carbs can be tofu. This is a dry tofu skin because I haven't been able to get fresh tofu. You could use vermicelli. Don't get confused with the last dish. This is a thin vermicelli from Longkou, which is in northern China, Shandong, similar to the Shandong chicken.
Shandong's a really interesting place. It's northern China by the sea. People like to eat and drink.
So that's the first rule. You want to use 2 vegetables of different colors and a carb or a protein base. Today we're using a carb base. The second rule is everything needs to be cooked. This is the part where it might be a bit different to Anglo salads, where things are actually eaten raw. So most Chinese salads, the food is cooked and then it's chilled. It's super cooled. And then the third rule is,
you've probably guessed it by now, is the usual heroes and coriander, shallots, soy, pepper. You do need chili powder here though. Chili flakes don't quite do it. You need some chili powder. Get it from Woolies. Garlic is optional.
And the fourth rule, which a lot of people get wrong, is to use a big bowl for mixing. You need a big bowl to get the flavoring right. I suppose it's like a salad bowl. So today we're going to make 2. One is a cold mixed salad and the other one is an oil poured salad. Let's get started.
Is to cut up the harder of your vegetables. So if you're using a carrot, obviously the carrot's going to take the longest time to cook. Leap of faith. A girlfriend bought me this this tool. She didn't like me using the cleaver, so I suppose I'll give it a try. I don't really like it. It kind of doesn't really cut well, and yeah, it's just a bit awkward, isn't it? Yeah, it looks like a potato peeler. Anyway, let's get these into nice little bits. I'll throw in the tofu skin because they're dry, so they're going to take a bit longer to boil. I'll just dump these in. So yeah, I would just boil the water long before you even start. One thing is that in this dish, you keep it on high. So now you're ready to put in the greens. I realized I only had half a cabbage and I'm going to make 2 dishes. So I'll substitute cabbage. This is sweet potato sprouts. Just make sure none of that's sticking. So let's dump these sweet potato sprouts in. Very easy, straight in there. Yeah, so keep in mind the other stuff's more or less cooked. Now these greens won't take long. Give it a good mix. And just make sure they don't stick. I usually flip them a bit to make sure it cooks at the bottom. But yeah, you really don't need to cook the greens for that long. Yeah, it's a bit of a structured and staged boiling process. Let's just chop these up because I forgot to do it before putting it in. Yeah, you don't want them too long or too big. You'll see why later. They get in the way of the mixing process. But anyway, yeah, so keep the heat on high as always. Yeah, you want to cook it quick. Done. So let's strain that. I usually use a pasta strainer. So let's just pour all this vegetables in there to get rid of the hot water first. Let's get some of these last bits of carrot out. So yeah, anyway, so that water should be fairly well strained now, and be very careful with this water. This water actually makes a fantastic soup for homeless people. I'm kidding. So yeah, so pour this stuff into water, and this is where it's nice to have some ice, because the ice will actually help keep the vegetables quite cool and quite quickly. But if you don't have ice, what you'll need to do is just replace the water a few times. Anyway, let's prepare the condiments while we're at it. Now, I prefer to use whole chilies because you'll see why, because you've got to chop them up to flavor the soy anyway. So let's just break some garlic. Yeah, good old cleaver comes back. I've been thinking I should start selling cleavers. I was thinking of launching a brand called the Wang Cleaver, and selling them. Anyway, so let's chop up these little bits, and here's a trick which I'm sure my northern Chinese forefathers didn't have. Electronic food processor. This actually really helps flavor the soy sauce. So you want basically a bit of soy. Now I usually just give it a generous pour, but I think the general rule is for each person you're cooking for, 1 teaspoon. This is just some sesame oil, which I prefer to cook in, but you can also put in olive oil, just a bit of oil, because it just helps it taste a bit silkier. So a little bit of a spin, and you'll see that that's now ready. So it's really quite quick. So get that ready, take that little knife away, 'cause I'm gonna cut myself. And these are now super cool. So once they're cool, you wanna strain it one last time. Just make sure they're cool before you do this exercise. So if you don't have ice, you might need to trade water, switch water a few times. So put your hand over it and make sure that it's cold. Now into the big mixing bowl, and what you want to do is you want to just pour it nicely gently over it and use your hands. Another big part of northern Chinese cold dishes, you've got to use your hands to mix it. It doesn't work otherwise. Nothing quite works better. Let's throw in some pepper at the end and give it another good mix with your hands. And so that's actually ready. So let's serve that. Now here's one trick. Don't pour all the soy sauce in. See, you'll see I'm leaving the soy sauce in there, otherwise it's too salty. Let's make the oil poured one. So similar process. Let's get the cabbage chopped up. Carrots. I'll just chop this. But anyway, let's get some carrots. Now, I've been given this other nifty tool because people don't like me using cleavers, but this is so annoying. I'm gonna cut my hands. How do these things even work? Anyway, I give up. Let's go back to the cleaver. So let's use the cleaver to slice these things up. So as usual, you want to boil the carrots first because the carrots take a bit longer to boil. They need about 10 minutes. Actually, you know what? I want some protein. Let's throw, I'm gonna put in 2 eggs. Yeah, should want some protein. Let's get some tofu in there. This is a different type of tofu skin, which isn't as tough as the first one. So I might just put it in there a little bit later. Anyway, I also feel like some carbs. Throw in some vermicelli. So now that that's ready, we can more or less dump in all the tofu. Let's throw in all that cabbage as well, and then once that's in there, just keep the heat on high. This is essentially vegetable boiling. Give it a nice good mix. Don't crack the egg, and we can start preparing the usual condiments. You might remember these from the oil poured noodles dish, actually. So if we just want to undo these, and then let's just chop these up. We won't use a processor for this because you might remember oil pouring. We're literally just gonna dice them up. Funny enough, I still like the cleaver a lot more than the food processor. I think you just you're able to get them into a nicely diced instead of just this complete mash. But anyway, it's let's cut that thinly. Anyway, so that's now more or less ready. The usual, you want to use some shallots in there as well. Let's just chop these up. So yeah, this is very similar to the oil poured noodles. If you haven't seen that, go have a look at that clip. Anyway, so just remember, you want to keep this fairly thin because there's no frying or blending process. So you just want it to be fairly thin. So the oil pour on it essentially cooks it and brings all the flavor out. Now let's check on how our salad's going. You only need to boil it for about 5 minutes. So I think it should be ready now. Let's drain it. The usual practice. Let's just pour this in. Oh shit, let's get some ice. Anyway, that's definitely cooked. Really, 5 minutes is more than enough. Anyway, so put that in there, get some cold water, put in the ice. I'm just using all of my whiskey drinking ice cubes. Anyway, you throw that in there. Now, whilst that's happening, let's fish out those eggs. Oh shit, they're really hot. Fuck, they're really, really hot. Let's go flush them with cold water. Anyway, I've just done that off screen. I burnt my hand. It was really painful. Ugh. Anyway, so I've just finished cooling the rest of those vegetables and strained them twice. Anyway, they're now nice and cold. So before we start the flavoring process, you want to just break the eggs using your hands. You will get your hands dirty in this dish, and it's quite fun. Anyway, so that's now ready to go. What I might do is get rid of that water. Just like the noodles, soy as a base, and then you want to pour, go get yourself a fry pan, and you might remember this is now the oil heating process. So you want to just put that pan on absolute high and give it a nice big pour of oil. Let's just wait for this oil to heat up. So nice big pour of oil. Remember, high smoking point oil is the best. And then remember, you want to layer this on the side, Holy Trinity style. Just put it all into that corner, and then you want to put over some chili powder. So very similar to the oil poured noodles, because all of that goodness is going to get cooked by the oil eventually. Throw on some pepper. Now, you don't really need salt, remember, because the soy sauce does that function with this oil pour. So you want to just go straight over the chili and the garlic. Let's have that again, just like that. So you see the oil is basically smoking, and what that does is that it just really brings out the flavors of all of that stuff. And the moment it stops bubbling away, let's start mixing. Oh God, it's just impossible to do this with a tong. You know what? Stuff it. I'm gonna use my hands. There you go. So you want to get that flavor nice and thoroughly through. Just keep mixing, keep tossing, keep mixing, keep tossing. Yeah, there's actually a place in Barangaroo called Fishbowl that seems to do bowls like this, although I think they wash their hands. Anyway, so let's put that in there, and trust me, this salad will not let you down. It's so delicious, and I can't wait to tuck into it. Have a drink without food, a bit like the Italians. So this is a very good Chinese grain spirit. It's about 52%. So the northern Chinese usually drink this, and what they usually do is they will say cheers and drink it all like that, and then eat a mouthful. That's good. Now to have some more by myself. Let's do a summary on techniques. The 3-color guide, you won't get it wrong. Green vegetable, brightly colored vegetable, and a carb or a protein. I suppose you can also do a carb and a protein, and the carb could just be tofu. And then you want to thinly slice everything and cook everything boiling water before icing to keep it crisp. If you've got no ice, you're going to need multiple rounds of cold water. When it comes to dressing and finishing, if you're doing cold mix, you want to thoroughly flavor the soy sauce. You either use a food processor, or you want to pour, or you want to basically get a bowl and crush everything and then pour the soy sauce on top, and then let it kind of sit for a bit. If you're going to go for the oil pour, soy sauce base, layer all the condiments on top, and you want to just pour all the hot oil on top of that, the condiments bit. You want to mix it very thoroughly by hand. And remember the last bit, when you're serving this dish, you only want to get the contents of the dish out. You don't actually just want to pour it, because you don't need the extra juices at the bottom, or just make everything too salty. Anyway, give it a go, and drinking's great with this.